Hello there! So today a video on tips and tricks in Houdini, mostly about modeling. Let's jump into my network editor, and as you can see it's a lot of nodes here, right? Whenever your scene grows bigger, there's always problem with even how to make it nice and clean, right? For me at least, I've always had problems with selecting nodes or even wiring them. Currently in Houdini, if you want to select a node, you have to hover over it and then select. But usually people will just try to draw a rectangle. So when it's all zoomed out like that, it's rather difficult to select a single node. Maybe when you hover over it and then select, but like for example, as you can see, like now I have a problem, like which one of these I want to select. So I have actually a key, Python scripted key for that handles the selection for me. So instead of hovering and then with the mouse selecting it, I just hover over a node and then press a single key, and it will select me a node that's closest to my mouse cursor. So if I want to go here and select the red node, I just press one key. I don't have to hover over exactly this node. It just finds the closest node to my mouse cursor. So, okay, you might say, hey, I don't have any problems with selecting nodes, it's just you. Okay, so let me give you another example. So let's unwire that. Let's say I want to wire this guy right over here. How would you do that, right? You have to zoom all over there, then select it back, and now you're back, right? And if you're lucky enough, if your graph is all nice and clean, so if you zoom in and you wired your node and then you zoomed out, if you're not lost yet, then you're lucky. But sometimes it is like that. So let me give you an example of how I work. So I want to wire this node right over here. How do I do that? I also use the same Python scripted key. I just hover over the node that I want to wire it and press one key. And there it is, it's all wired. So it's way faster. I don't have to zoom in, zoom out, and waste a lot of frustrating time. And it works the same for wiring down. So I can just wire, and there it is, I'm wired back. Okay, so if you want to try these hotkeys out, I will leave the link in the description to the Python scripts. And then you just have to make a hotkey. But how do you make a hotkey? The way I found it the easiest is create a new shelf, and my shelf is called, it's right over, oh my god, this is so annoying. There it is. I have 4 Python scripted hotkeys, and if you want to create a new one, oh, for some reason my tab menu appeared on my other screen. So you create a Python node, then you drag and drop it right over here. Then you can move this guy. Then you do edit tool. Then you give him name and description. In the script, you paste the script that you'll be using. So something. Then go to hotkeys and assign a hotkey. So I'm using a network pane. So you go to edit, and these are my keys. So you create a new, you add a hotkey, right? So you do apply accept, but this is not done. So you have to apply accept here as well. And then sometimes I notice that the key won't work. I have to relaunch Houdini to actually make these hotkeys working. So if you want to check these hotkeys out, yeah, feel free to just download the scripts and wire them into your own hotkeys. Okay, so another thing about Houdini is that actually the default scene rather sucks. Usually in Houdini you do some kind of effects, right? And use viewport for, I would say, more for debugging. Then actually you don't care about the shading that much. You care about your attributes. You have to see some kind of geometry, but like as I said, probably you want to see the attributes, not the shading. But when it comes to modeling, your shading matters a lot. Because for example, now you can say, hey, this model looks so amazing, but the truth is you just don't see all the artifacts that I have on this model, and there are plenty of them. we have to adjust the scene shading and lightning. What I've been doing is I'll be adding some point lights or spotlights, doesn't matter, I'll be using spotlights. Pick the ones you want. Spotlight and spotlight. And don't want to display them in the viewport. Okay, so it's a bit better, although it's all overburned and the reflections are just terrible. But the reflections come from the shader, right? So to fix that, let's go to materials and add a shader. I'll be using principal shader. There's also this in the shaders. So you can see that because for some reason my tab keeps appearing on my other screen, but there's this car shader as well, but I haven't managed to hook it up probably. So if any of you know how to do that, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to know. So I'll call it a or maybe viewport shader. I will change the color to white for now and use point color. Now it looks even worse. So we have to adjust the values. So first of all, I will do all metallic to 1, which will get rid of my point color. So maybe you don't have to use that. But I don't care about actual mesh color. I care about reflections. So then adjust the roughness to something really high. Maybe even give it at 1. But then we don't see anything, right? So let's go and change the exposure to something lower. And now we can start to finally see something. Okay, my scene just crashed, so yeah, that happens. Not that I very often in Houdini, but it does. Okay, so maybe lower the metallic to see actually a little bit of color and add some color. Yeah, so it looks way better. And now I can clearly see like this area here is just terrible. The artifacts are really, really bad. Okay, so what about the rendering? So if we're lucky enough, my material might be just suitable enough for rendering. This is only when you're lucky. And when you're modeling, you'll be adjusting your lighting a lot. Like for example, these two guys, you can change the color like this and add a null. Make it to rotate. So when you scrub through, you can also change your lighting. So this is very useful for modeling. But when it comes to rendering, you don't want to have animated lights. You want to have some different lights, static lights. So let's add skylight. And the skylight will create here two lights, sunlight and skylight. And skylight have an option for environment map, which is an HDRI. But on default, when you use the tool on the shelf, the skylight, the option enable sky environment map will be on. So you have to untick that. And now you can enable the environment map. Then you can do another geometry, call it render. Hook it up like that, just because I have it like this way. Drag and drop. Untick export relative path. Ctrl X. Ctrl V. Maybe keep the model, hide the render part. Go to this guy, copy, rename it to render shader. Change the bench color to white because we want to use point colors, and leave it as it is for now and see how it looks like. in the render. So let's go to 5. Oh, I had my render already there, and skylight and skylight. This is because I just removed it before, but it remember the names. So let's see how it looks like. Yeah, so it looks completely different than what we have in the scene view, right? And this is what we want. You want to have your shader as well as lighting different for your actual renders than for your modeling. And also because I've added these lights, my viewport shader changed as well, right? The one for the modeling. So if I disable the shader in the viewport, it changes. But actually I liked it. So maybe copy these guys. I will keep these only for the rendering. So I will do disable. And then I can adjust these. So yeah, this looks pretty good. And I can see all the nasty bad reflections. Okay, so I think this will be all for this video. And remember that in the viewport, if you reload your desktop, you might lose your settings of the scene view. So remember to have anti-aliased samples to maximum. And also you might want to lower the wire width, so it will look way cooler now. Yeah, so as I said, thank you for watching, and I know that some of you have been asking for me to continue on modeling this car. However, it's a particularly difficult model, and I didn't think about that before I picked it, because mostly I've been spending my time on figuring out the shapes and planning things out, because I know that as much as time I spend on figuring out the actual shapes, it will pay off in the future. That's why I mostly focus on the main parts, because once I'm done with that, I can jump into actual detail, and the detail will be easy. Okay, so thanks guys again, and see you guys soon.